Hello, and welcome for this new release of Xen Orchestra 5.111. This one is for September 2025. And as promised, like we did in the previous months, we already knew in advance that September is a very busy one. It's a very classic back to school things where everyone took vacation during July and August. Now everyone is back on track. And this is visible due to the sheer size of the release we have this month. So let's start to explore it. It's so big, we had to make different sections. So we'll go to the first section, project and community, which is an unusual one, but you will see we have also other sections. So the first thing we're proud to announce is a new hardware partnership with Eviden, with their new machines. Eviden is a French manufacturer doing kind of high performance servers. So it's really interesting to work with them. They have a range of machines that are really kind of unique. You can stack them and have up to 8 sockets, even 16 sockets, with almost 1000 vCPUs. So that will be really interesting for us to push Xen to the limits and see just up to where we can go with this kind of hardware. So they are becoming the new certified hardware we have, as we can work directly with them to double check everything is working out of the box and so on. So we're really happy about that. So more to come in the future, clearly, on that, but stay tuned. The second official hardware manufacturer, server manufacturer we're working with, and this is going into the right direction with more and more companies and server manufacturers, storage providers working with us. Let's move to another partnership we're really proud to announce. You're already aware about our, let's say, commitment to work with EasyVert as being a kind of area like in VMware thing with DCScope, which is like a capacity planning, analysis of your power, CO2 consumption, and so on, but also DC NETSCOPE, which is analyzing all your net flows from your entire network running on XCP-ng. So what we did this time is going beyond the initial partnership, is having the product directly integrated right into Xen Orchestra. So you will see some screenshots down in the blog post, but the idea is to be able to deploy DCScope and DC NetScope directly from Xen Orchestra UI. Like you can deploy a Kubernetes cluster, now you will be able to try really easily the solution on your XCP-ng infrastructure. And remember, EasyVert is also capable to plug on a VMware or some cloud providers, so you can have a unified view within all your hybrid infrastructure and how you are using it, and do all the features of EasyVert on the entire thing. So very exciting, and integration is ramping up, and it's really cool. I wanted also to talk to you about our new, let's say, unified security process called the VSAs. So it's Vates Security Advisories. So it's a way for us to announce all the security issues with a unique format centralized to one point. So as you remember, you already have like XCP-ng blog posts almost every month announcing security issues. Sometimes Xen Orchestra release blog posts explaining, fixed on security side and so on. So we'll keep that, but on top of it, we'll add a centralized page. Well, you could find all the VSAs. So we already have 2. So if you want to take a look, go in your new documentation and the dedicated page regarding advisories. They are sorted per year and the most recent on top. So it's part of our, let's say, professionalization of the way we deal with security. And we found that now we have many products. It was the opportunity to get everything into a single place. You're already aware, but it's a reminder that XCP-ng 8.2 has reached end of life. So now you have to update to XCP 8.3 LTS. EOL was the 16th of September. So, go ahead, because as being end of life, we don't do any more updates of any kind. So it becomes more and more critical as time is passing to get those, security updates. We got multiple updates for 8.3 with security fixes, features, and so on and so on. There is a VSA that was published about that, so if you want to take a look, go ahead. But the details on the blog post are, still there. Again, the VSA is here to, let's say, try to gather everything into one place, but the details will stay on the side of the blog posts. New section called Insights. So the idea was to split a bit, the community announcement, partnerships, and so on with insights. Insights are more like, reflections we have or people we know have that we found interesting about different topics that are mainly on the, aspects of our company or products. This one is on my personal blog post on doing remote work and how remote work works at Vates. So if you're interested about the organization aspects, feel free to take a look. It's pretty interesting. And there's a second article from my associate Nitida, but in French. It's more global and providing more details on how we implement this remote hybrid, kind of work we do at Vates. There's some also interviews I gave in some journals recently. So uh, mostly about open source, as we are still deeply committed open source in open source at Vates. So feel free to take a look. Again, it's in French, but you could use the translation of your browser to get it in the language that suits you. Also, I pointed to a thread or mega thread on the Lawrence Systems forums. Tom created a great post about all the best practices for XCP-ng setup. So if you want to take a look, there's videos and so on. So if you want to start somewhere, it's a good piece. So take a look, go there, and learn about it. Another article, which is more on the security aspect of things, talking about VMscape vulnerability and how Xen avoid it by design of being a type 1 hypervisor and pretty small and so on and so on. So if you want to, take a look inside, it's not very technical, but still it gives you some explanation on the why it wasn't affected. Let's switch now to the events section. So the idea here was to tell you where we'll be in the future and when we've been. So at some point, if you want to meet us in the flesh, you could, do that. Even if there is a lot of French events right now coming in the next weeks. IPNPAs in Orléans in France will have a presentation. Volcamp, which is in Clermont-Ferrand, will be more on the DevOps aspects, while the IPNPAs would be more generic demo on the entire stack. And I will be myself at the Data Core days, as we have a partnership with Data Core. So, working on better integration with Data Core storage and Xen Orchestra and XCP-ng. So if you're near Avignon in France, you can, see there. We will also be at the GitX Global. Not myself, but two people from Vates will be there, Mark and Razvan. So it's October 13, 17. So if you are around Dubai, feel free to say hi. We'll have a booth shared with other member of the region. We are in France, but still you can find us. So if you want to, find us, just let me know. I can give you more details. And finally, in November, we'll be at the KubeCon in Atlanta, USA. So it's the KubeCon North America. We'll have a booth there dedicated with Vates. We'll make a lot of announcements in there. So hang on. And if you're in the region or if you're in North America, you want to see Vates, go there. Will be a decent number of people manning the booth. And finally, we've been there. We'll give a lot more details on that with probably a dedicated blog post on the XCP-ng. But we've been to the Xen Summit 2025, which has been hosted by AMD in Santa Clara. It was a really nice event, and we'll be happy to give some details. Vates was like the almost one of the top two, top three delegation there with almost 12 people. So we've been there with many people. We had like 3 or 4 talks, a lot of design sessions. That was really interesting, and I will make you a recap in the next week. So take a look on the XCP-ng blog. It should come very soon with all the presentation, the YouTube videos, pictures, and the recap of what we did and so on. We've also been at the Cubes OS Summit. So if you don't know, Cubes is the kind of equivalent of XCP-ng, but for the desktop and even for the laptop. The idea is to split each program that you're running in your laptop into a different VM. And so they are using Xen extensively. So that's why we participated to, have many discussions regarding security and so on. And we've been also to the Security Expo 2025 in Oslo, where we discussed about, the Vates stack and how it fits with the sovereign, private cloud, because in Europe, it's a pretty hot topic. So as you could see, it was a, a pretty busy month, also on events and so on. So that's it for the introduction and what happened in the overall ecosystem around us. Now let's talk about the 5.111 release itself, to talk more in detail. So um, let's talk about security. You maybe heard about the NPM supply chain attack. So we investigated, and few days after it was revealed, we had a VSA that was out, and the VSA just saying that we were not affected because we are updating the dependency pretty often, and this means also we didn't use affected package or a version of the affected packages. So no impact, but just we wanted to make sure everyone is aware that we've seen that, we investigated, and the results of the investigation are no problem. Also, we had another announcement. So it's pre VSA. We had a 4 release ago security patch for LDAP plugin with some ID attribute issues with the schema and so on. So it's very unlikely you had the issue, but if you are using LDAP authentication, please review your configuration to make sure you don't have any extra users created and so on. Better safe than sorry. It's even if it's fixed, it's good to have a look and double check there is nothing in there. So we wrote a very small guide just explaining what to check on your side if you are using that plugin. Okay, let's switch to the backup section. So, we released our new backup engine like a few months ago. It's entering stable. It works very well. No big issues. We just, we continue to add more and more, let's say, features or more like quality life fixes. So we had some safety checks, and this month we added uh, things that prevent accidental space reclamation, because if it happens during a backup, then it could lead to some issues. So now we protected that with a new modal dialog giving you, are you sure you want to do that, to reclaim that free space when there is backup running. So this is a protection, and it's kind of a corner case, but again, better safe than sorry. Okay, so let's move to core UIs, the next gen joint UI between Exo 6 and Exolite. So we improve some components to make them, better in general. So if you want to take a look at the screenshots, we made the dashboard closer to what we designed in Figma. So they are, nicer and closer to the design. Sometimes it might be subtle, but in the end it makes the overall UI more coherent and better to use. Regarding Exo 6, we made a lot of progress improving the backup views. So we had a very basic stuff last month, so now we are adding more, all the jobs that runs before. We have a side panel displaying all the details on your backup jobs. So without having to enter a new page, you can have just the side panel showing all the details. So it's very, very handy, and it's very useful to have into one single page the ability to quickly see what this backup job is doing without having to go back and forth from the dedicated page of the job and then the job list and so on and so on. With a side panel, you have all the overview information in one page, and you can just select the right job and you will have all the details without again going back and forth. So very handy. We also added a new card in the dashboard called alarms and patches, so making the dashboard finally complete in terms of number of cards. So you have all the details regarding all the alarms, what's going on, if there is issue with CPU usage or whatnot. Same for the patches. You can see all the missing patches and so on. So the dashboard view of your host will recap everything directly, so it's very, very convenient. We added the job lists with, again, also the side panel, so you can see all the executions of your previous jobs. If there is an error, a failure warning, if you click on the line, you will have all the message, the details, error, and so on. You could copy paste everything. I mean, it starts to taking in good shape, right? Exo 6 starts to be more and more usable, and we only have now 3 releases before it becomes the default view. So we are truly going full thrust to make sure you have everything that matters the most inside the default x06 view that will be in December. On Exolite side of things, minor improvements here and there. The components that have been improved for Core UI are also improving Exolite. We use a way to show if you can see all the external links, with a small arrow going out of the box, so it's more readable that if you click, it will open an external link. We did also different, key value alignments improvements, so it's a lot less, I would say better in the end, using less spaces and being more natural to read that. So it's easier to read, more natural to read. So let's switch to XOA now. So what's happening within the virtual appliance that you deploy with everything pre-installed. Now you can deploy automatically, as I discussed previously, as we are going deeper with EasyVert. There are two products, DC Scope and DC NetScope. So this means if you go in the recipe view, you could go to directly deploy DC Scope, click on deploy, and when it's deployed and connected to your pool, for example, you have a button that will appear directly in your advanced pool view that could link directly to the working DC scope for that pool. So if you want to get more information on capacity planning, resource usage, power consumption, and so on, just click there from Xen Orchestra. It will send you directly to the web UI of DC scope. So that's the goal of getting more integrated, and I think it's a pretty cool thing. It will help you to try the tool and have the good synergies between Xen Orchestra and DC Scope. Let's switch to the REST API, which is also doing a huge progress every month. The REST API now is evolving rather fast. We are creating new endpoints, and also change a bit things to be better. So for the backup things, we moved a bit the way the calls worked and the let's say endpoint worked. We also moved a lot of them into Swagger, the integrated documentation that you could access now directly from the web UI. There is a link to access it. And so you have all the information, deprecation, parameters, everything that is right bundled into your XO web UI. So the documentation is built in, which is very convenient. So you can know exactly what kind of things you have to path to the objects and so on and so on. So we are almost there to get everything that is Swagger compatible. So again, it needs to have some format and so on. So that's why we're migrating everything to it. But it's getting in shape, and we're pretty happy with that. So if you want more detail on Swagger, we did a more detailed announcements in the previous release where we explain everything. Let's switch now to the DevOps tools. So we made some updates this month. We update the Go SDK provider, so it affects different version of the tools using it. But Terraform got a lot of fixing with at least 3 bug fix that helps you to create VMs with many disks and so on without any error. We already had feedback from users. We're really happy with that. There's a real good community of people using those DevOps tools to do infrastructure as code on top of XCP and Xen Orchestra. So continue to invest into there. We continue to fix bugs, and we hope to accelerate even further with the team, which is the DevOps tool teams, which is growing. So stay tuned about that. More to come. More infrastructure as code. More tooling for the entire Vates stack. Regarding the VMware to Vates tools, last month we announced tremendous progress by using VDDK, using warm migration, and so on and so on. So this month it was just minor fixes here and there, but most of it was improving the entire documentation to help you to make the migration. So it's more here a reminder of the gap we managed to get by using VDDK, but most of it is now in the documentation. So just let's see below. We created an entire guide with many details on how to cover everything you could do to use that. So feel free to read it. It's pretty complete. We took really time to make sure step by step how to make the migration, and how to deal with all the different cases you might have. Also, if you visited just before the VSAs, you discover that we have a new documentation, the Vates VMS documentation. So it's kind of the same principle that we had for gathering all the security advisories into one place, we are also getting not replacing Xenox and XCP documentation, but having one place to giving you a general, a standard place where you could visit and having links toward everything else you need. So as we're setting a stack, it makes sense to have a documentation for the entire stack that could, link to other parts of the dedicated XCP and Xenox documentation. But still, we are getting more and more stuff into that. So it will be an extra content for you, not again replacing, but extra content for people that discovering the stack, having everything at one place. So that's pretty cool. So take a look. It's not yet, I would say entirely full of every content we might imagine, but still it's getting bigger and bigger and with more and more interesting content. Okay, so we also improve the documentation, as I think it's important to have a small digression for this. We are spending more and more time on documentation. It's almost like same, let's say, importance than releasing features, because a good documentation is really really important, especially as we have people that are less and less technical or experts in XCP-ng or Xen Orchestra. So we spend more and more time to get something done, and so every month we'll make sure that you are aware about the progress we've made, the new sections, the new features that are correctly documented, and so on and so on. So this time it's about a backup strategy guide. So it's a full guide about how you should, you should use backups, VMs backups with Xen Orchestra. So it's a great tool. Feel free to read it. It can give you ideas, best practices, and so on and so on. We also have getting started with all the recipes, like for the Kubernetes recipes and so on. How does it work, and so on and so on. Again, very good documentation. Take time to read it, because I'm pretty sure you will learn at least 2 or 3 things by reading it. Okay, let's talk about translation. Pretty good work from our community with many new language, many new updated translation. Thanks to Lux for providing, refining a lot of French translations. So if you want to do that, we have a great tool called WebLite that helps to make translation from just a basic web UI. No need to have any technical knowledge. So feel free to click on this link that is sending you to translate.vates.tech. But still, it's appreciated to have more language for Exo6 and Exolite. A few community spotlights. So I decided this month to showcase the usage of our PowerShell module that we just get like in the last months, and we already have a pretty decent community using it, and we're really happy to see people doing cool stuff with it. So we have a user in our forum, so I put a link here, building a backup report tool thanks to this PowerShell module. So it's pretty neat. It's done through that PowerShell module, so feel free to have a look, and if you want to get it yourself, the forum thread is open and suggestions are welcome, and the code is also available. So thanks to TMK for it. Feel free to, again, have a look and try it if you're interested and if you're working on Windows with PowerShell. And let's finish with the Misc section. So despite already the number of things we announced, there's still, different stuff that we added. We made a pretty cool modification in the cloud config templates. As you remember, you have a kind of a language with let's say brackets to help you to put variables into there. Now you can have a variable for SSH key, which is very handy if you have more automation, and make sure that it takes the SSH key as a template. So pretty simple, but very, very helpful. We also made it's not a feature, but it's an improvement of something. It's due to our work with Cloud Temple, a French public cloud provider who is using a big S3 storage to store all the templates they are building with automation, maybe Packer, I don't remember the detail, but still they have a big S3 provider storage, a big S3 storage with all the templates for the entire infrastructure with many different pools. And so they have some, automation to deploy all those templates on a new pool, on a new machine. And it was like downloading like between 20 or 30 templates at once. And the S3 provider, the S3 storage, sorry, was like having some timeouts because the number of requests in parallel. So what we did is changing the timeouts from the import from the URL, like what they did to use to import those templates to get something bigger. So it's now configurable, and I think they reached like 20 seconds for avoiding a timeout. So obviously it depends on what you need, but we answered that requirement. As usual, we made some dependencies, cleanup, let's say every month. We either remove unused depths or updates or old depths and so on. That's what we do every month. We also improve the natural sorting of PIFs and VIFs, because the default sort is kind of a pain. As you can see, you're F0, 1, then 1, 0, which is 10. So it's not the natural sorting order. It is from a computer's perspective, but not for humans. So now we sorted it, and now it's sorted correctly in natural order. So it's a small thing, but believe me, after years of having it, it's like was something itching. We're really happy to fix also those small but relevant, things that could be sometimes, a bit unnerving. So also, the template view is now providing the UID, displaying all the ID for the templates, which is, if you read the VMware migration guide, could be really helpful. So that's why we did it. We improved that view, the template view with that. So if you have, I don't know, similar template names and so on, you could just get the UID easily right in the UI. And also for something we're working on for the hyperconvergence, to add the capability to get a tiebreaker. So it's kind of the witness node, if you prefer, for hyperconvergence. Sometimes even have the capability to work only on two nodes locally and having a tiebreaker elsewhere. We are adding the capacity to display the tiebreaker right in Xen Orchestra. So, as you can see, it's a pretty big release, but we're really proud of that. So, thanks, kudos to all the team who participated to that. We have also many announcements to make in the near future, so stay tuned. And otherwise, we will see together in 1 month for October release. Thank you very much, and see you around. Bye bye.